Today, we're taking a closer look at who El Mencho really is and why he poses such a serious threat to the United States. In western Mexico, in the state of Michoacán, lies a rural community surrounded by mountains. El Naranjo. Dry land. Limited opportunity. It was there that a boy was born. That boy would one day be known as one of the most dangerous drug lords in the world. His name, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho. But at that time, he was nothing more than a poor farm boy. For decades, Michoacán has been known as a region where powerful drug cartels compete and overlap. But during his childhood, the reality was simpler: poverty, lack of opportunity, and one option: leave the country. In his late teens, he headed north. His destination, the U.S. state of California. From the 1980s into the early 1990s, California saw a surge in Latino immigration. Agriculture, construction, low-wage labor, many young men crossed the border chasing opportunity. But beneath that economic growth, the drug trade was expanding rapidly. In cities like Los Angeles, heroin and cocaine trafficking had become widespread. The young Mencho entered that underground economy. He reportedly began at the lowest levels of distribution, eventually becoming deeply involved in heroin trafficking. In 1994, he was convicted on federal drug charges related to heroin trafficking. He was arrested in the United States and served roughly 3 years in prison. Prison was not just punishment. It was also a place where information and connections intersected. Cartel structures, smuggling routes, money laundering tactics. It was a classroom for the underworld. After completing his sentence, he was deported back to Mexico. But he was no longer the farm boy who had left years earlier. He now understood the U.S. drug market, cross-border logistics, and the realities of organized crime. Back in Mexico, he aligned himself with the Milenio cartel, which was expanding its influence in western Mexico and had ties to the powerful Sinaloa cartel. Within that structure, he became associated with a faction known as Los Quines, a core group responsible for financing and enforcement. Under cartel leadership, he reportedly operated as an armed enforcer. Gunfights, protection details, retaliation missions. Every assignment carried the risk of death. During this period, he developed two defining abilities: the capacity to control violence and the leadership skills to unify an organization. A rural farm boy, a U.S. inmate, a cartel enforcer. Step by step, his life moved closer to the center of the criminal underworld. Eventually, internal power struggles erupted within the Milenio cartel. Alliances shifted. Betrayals unfolded. The organization began to fracture. That chaos would become the turning point that defined El Mencho's future. The man from a rural village was about to transform into a figure capable of shaking a nation. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, known as CJNG, is an organization that reshaped Mexico's criminal landscape in just over a decade. Based in the western state of Jalisco, its influence quickly spread beyond its stronghold, expanding into neighboring states and eventually reaching much of the country. According to analysis by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, CJNG, maintains a presence in more than 20 of Mexico's 32 states. Some reports indicate its operational reach extends into at least 27 states. This was not gradual expansion. It was the systematic removal of rival groups and the replacement of existing power structures through violence and financial dominance. Behind this rapid growth was an aggressive and highly mobile strategy. Unlike traditional cartels that quietly infiltrated territories, CJNG chose direct confrontation, engaging rivals head-on and seizing control in short, decisive campaigns. Through ambushes, coordinated assaults, and highly visible acts of violence designed to intimidate, the organization turned fear itself into a weapon. The DEA has further reported that CJNG evolved into a multinational criminal enterprise with branches or collaborators in more than 40 countries. Its networks extend beyond North America into Central and South America, Europe, and parts of Asia. These networks support not only drug trafficking, but also weapons procurement, money movement, and recruitment, forming a transnational infrastructure that crosses borders with efficiency. Through these international routes, vast sums of money circulate, profits that are reinvested into weapons, equipment, and logistics. This cycle of capital and force became the engine of CJNG's expansion. CJNG gained global attention for its extreme use of violence. The group has carried out bold attacks targeting civilians, police forces, and even the military. It has used improvised explosive devices, armored vehicles, and heavy weaponry. In recent years, authorities have documented the use of drones equipped with explosives, deployed from above against adversaries. In 2015, armed members of the organization shot down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade. The incident marked a symbolic moment, an organized crime group directly challenging state military power. CJNG was no longer viewed as merely a trafficking organization, but as a heavily armed, quasi-paramilitary force with advanced training and weaponry. CJNG uses fear as a method of governance. Public executions, intimidation videos, and displays of heavily armed convoys serve as psychological warfare. Through visual shock and strategic messaging, the group suppresses resistance before it begins. Violence is not only a tool of conflict, it is a calculated instrument of control. At its core, CJNG's primary business is drug trafficking. Large-scale production of synthetic drugs, particularly fentanyl and methamphetamine, forms the backbone of its revenue. These substances are relatively inexpensive to produce and yield exceptionally high profit margins. Combined with cocaine transshipment operations, the cartel maintains a diversified supply chain across multiple drug markets. The United States remains its largest customer base. The DEA has classified CJNG as an organization rivaling the Sinaloa cartel in scale, warning that its trafficking networks extend into all 50 U.S. states. Authorities assess that clandestine laboratories are scattered throughout Mexico, managing the process from precursor chemical acquisition to manufacturing and transportation. The estimated value of the drugs trafficked reaches into the billions of dollars. Once distributed in the United States, these substances have contributed to severe overdose crises. The spread of synthetic narcotics has evolved into a national challenge affecting healthcare systems, public safety, and social services. Yet CJNG's operations go beyond narcotics. The organization has been linked to fuel theft, extortion, kidnapping, human trafficking, and illegal mining activities. It embeds itself within local economies, extracting profit from multiple sectors and establishing diversified streams of revenue. Within the organization, a financial arm known as Los Quines reportedly manages complex money laundering operations. Methods include the use of cryptocurrency, fraudulent trade practices, and shell companies designed to obscure financial trails. Criminal proceeds are moved internationally and reinvested into further expansion and weapons acquisition. Analysts describe CJNG's structure as a centralized, pyramid-style hierarchy. At the top stands El Mencho, supported by a small circle of senior leaders overseeing key divisions. Regional cells and allied groups operate across territories, but major strategic decisions remain concentrated at the highest level. This centralized model allows for rapid command transmission and coordinated control, though it also places significant reliance on leadership at the top. Under El Mencho, that chain of command has reportedly remained cohesive, integrating force, capital, and intelligence into a unified system that redistributes resources across regions. CJNG is more than a criminal organization. It has developed a structure resembling elements of state governance, combining violence and economic strategy to expand its influence. Its rise illustrates how modern organized crime has evolved adaptive, globalized, and increasingly sophisticated in both structure and execution. CJNG's operations extend far beyond Mexico's borders, reaching deep into American society. In recent years, the United States has faced an escalating synthetic drug crisis centered on fentanyl, an extremely powerful opioid, in which even a tiny dose can be fatal. The large-scale flow of fentanyl into the country has driven a dramatic rise in overdose deaths nationwide. Law enforcement and public health agencies report that hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost to drug-related causes in recent years. The impact stretches across cities, suburbs, and rural communities alike, straining hospitals, emergency responders, families, and entire local economies. U.S. authorities identify CJNG as one of the primary suppliers fueling this crisis. The organization is believed to operate distribution networks across all 50 states, making its dismantlement a national priority. Federal efforts have included strengthening border security, disrupting smuggling routes, and targeting domestic trafficking cells. El Mencho has long ranked among the world's most wanted fugitives. In 2024, the U.S. government raised the reward for information leading to his capture to $15 million, underscoring the scale of the threat. In February 2025, the United States designated CJNG as a foreign terrorist organization, expanding legal tools such as asset freezes, financial sanctions, and criminal penalties for associates. The move reflected growing concern over the cartel's power and reach. U.S. Mexico cooperation intensified, with intelligence sharing that included surveillance data, intercepted communications, and financial tracking. Operations targeting El Mencho were framed as part of a coordinated cross-border strategy against transnational organized crime. In February 2026, Mexican special forces reportedly located El Mencho near Tapalpa, in the state of Jalisco. After years of pursuit, the mountainous operation escalated into a firefight involving heavy weapons. Authorities seized the compound, and El Mencho was reportedly captured with severe injuries before later being pronounced dead at a hospital. His death marked the end of a long manhunt, but not necessarily the end of violence. Following reports of his death, CJNG-linked groups reacted swiftly. Highways were blocked, vehicles were set ablaze, and armed convoys appeared in displays of intimidation. Tensions rose across Jalisco, disrupting daily life and prompting authorities to urge residents to remain indoors. Analysts warn that the removal of a centralized leader could trigger internal power struggles. In tightly controlled criminal organizations, succession battles often lead to instability and further bloodshed. At the same time, Mexican officials have described the operation as a potential turning point, reaffirming their commitment to dismantling cartel structures in cooperation with the United States. El Mencho's death may symbolize the close of one chapter. Yet the structural forces that sustain organized crime, poverty, demand, corruption, and cross-border logistics remain in place. As long as those conditions persist, organized crime adapts. One man's story may be over, but its consequences continue to unfold.